All right, welcome everybody to our October 24th City of Franklin Municipal Planning Commission meeting. Appreciate everybody being here. We will start the meeting with our review of the minutes from our September meeting. If I can have a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on those minutes? All right, I see none, then we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportunity if you have items that you want to speak to the commission that are not on the agenda tonight, not agenda items, but just items, anything you want to speak to the commission on. This is your opportunity to come forward and talk to us. If not, we will move on to announcements. Catherine?
I have no announcements, Mr. Chairman.
Then Vernon.
But I do, and good evening, Commissioners. A couple of things I'd like to share with you this evening, and maybe updates going forward at future Planning Commission meetings. The first is that last month we shared with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen that we are looking seriously at purchasing some paperless agenda software. And we want to obviously reduce the amount of paper that you all receive, but the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and the committees that feed into the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, being the CIP Committee and Budget and Finance Committee. So over the coming months, we don't have an implementation date yet, that we'll be engaging you to make that move, and be assured that we'll make sure that the plans that you all review, you'll have access to some type of technology that allows you to look at them as you need be. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that we are moving in that direction, and a number of communities throughout the country have done that, and you can see by the amount of paper alone that you get every month, it's more than that to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen twice a month. So hopefully that makes it much more efficient going forward.
Good.
The other thing that I want to share with you that's very important is that many of you know that for the last 4 or 5 years, the city has facilitated a monthly meeting with, an open meeting with developers and design professionals. And that meeting's facilitated the first Wednesday of every month at 7 a.m. here in City Hall, and normally have great attendance and participation, much of which comes out development processes and suggestions for various ordinance or tweaks to our zoning ordinance and or municipal code. Recently, we've identified a group of those people that participate in those meetings, developers and design professionals, to begin working with staff to look at our development approval process, specifically the post-PC process that many of you hear about. The post-PC process results when there are conditions still outstanding from items you approve or that staff approves administratively. We believe that there's a lot of efficiency to be gained if we can eliminate the number of conditions that come before you or even are submitted in administrative approvals, and focus more on the front end, pre-application meetings and departmental review meetings. So we've started working with a group, staff, developers, and volunteer design professionals, meeting every 2 weeks to hone in on that process, and wanted to share that with you. And one of the things that is on many of the items that you'll consider this evening is that we've included what is called the short track process, in which the applications that have come in have very few conditions, and we'll put them into a short track or short post-PC process that hopefully we can get those conditions resolved in the next week or two following the meeting. So I'd like to think that those discussions are already creating awareness to make the process entirely efficient, more efficient, but still meet the quality standards that we desire here in the city of Franklin. I wanted to share that with you. There may be things that we need your guidance on but it is important as we continue to grow as a community and see more applications coming forward for consideration.
Great.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to
Yes.
express the concern that I expressed at the Board of Mayor and Alderman, but I wanted everybody here to also be thinking about. I think I will find it very difficult to look at plats and plans, you know, on an iPad or anything like that. And even the ones that are, you know, smaller versions of what we used to get, as some of you remember, you know, the piles up here. Even these are very hard to read. And I know that you can, you know, probably expand those, but still, sometimes you need to look at the whole page at once. And so I'm very concerned about that. I do know, and we've talked about that some of the staff members have very large monitor screens, but, you know, I don't think we want those at our houses. I just realized that wouldn't be convenient for most of the time to have that. So I just wanted to say to you that I'm concerned mainly for the planning materials, not so much for the materials that we get just for the Board of Mayor and Alderman, but the planning materials themselves, I still have reservations about.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely a different way to look at it. I've had to deal with that a little bit in my profession, and it takes some getting used to. You have to change how you see things, and it does take some time.
Some of us have a hard time getting the big picture anyway, so, yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks for your comments, though. All right, any other
No,
announcements?
thank you
Okay.
very much.
All right, one more item for you guys in the audience. If there's an item that is not on tonight's agenda that you would like for us to consider, that's a votable item, please come forward and we'll consider that. All right, I see none, then we will move to the consent agenda. And we have two consent agendas, what we call initial and secondary. We'll start with the initial consent agenda, and that this includes items that we consider non-controversial that we'll vote on as one item. And I'll list those right now, and if anyone wants to pull an item off that agenda item, then I'll ask for that later. So right now, the initial consent agenda is items 7 through 10, 12 through 18, 25 through 28, and 30 through 31. If there's anyone in the audience or staff or commission that wants to pull an item from that initial consent agenda, please let me know, and we'll do that. All right, I see none, then let's have a vote, or we'll start with a motion.
We have a motion for approval of staff recommendations.
Okay, we have a stereo motion, we'll have a second from Ms. Alma. All right, any discussion about that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Then I'm going to turn the chair over to Mr. Lindsay and let him address the secondary consent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Items for consideration tonight on the secondary consent agenda are items 19 through 22. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
A second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Roger. Vernon, as part of that technology, can you include a little platform here that just lowers me down so I don't have to walk out each time? All right, we'll start with item number 11. This is Cool Springs. This is part of our site plan sureties. Cool Springs West Subdivision Site Plan, Section 4, Revision 2, Lot 20, Southern Ice Addition, extend the performance agreement for landscape improvements.
Mr. Chairman, when the recommendations first came out on this in your packets, the recommendation was to call the performance agreement for landscaping improvements. Since packets came out, the applicant has been in touch with staff, and we've had a good discussion, and we feel quite certain that he's going to complete it, hopefully in time for the January agenda. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and change the recommendation. We're going to go ahead and extend it to April 18th, 2014,
Okay.
with hopes that it'll be complete by January.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, anyone in the audience that wants to speak to this item other than the applicant? All right, is there anyone that is representing the applicant that wants to speak to the commission? All right, then we will take a motion.
Move to extend the agreement to April 18th, meeting 2014. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, move to item number 23, Resolution 2013-64, to be entitled a resolution approving a development plan for the Andover Park PUD subdivision located at 1126 Liberty Pike by the City of Franklin.
Mr. Chairman, I think he's recusing himself.
Okay. Mr. Frank will be recusing himself. All right, staff?
Mr. Chairman, this development plan proposes demolition of an existing single-family residence and the addition of 5 new detached residential units. Staff recommends a favorable recommendation to BOMA.
Okay. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if there's anyone in the audience that wants to speak to this item, please come forward. Go ahead and come to the front podium. And if you can line up, it'll make it more efficient for us to hear what your comments are. Please take about 2 minutes, and we'll try to get everybody in, and just let us know your name and where you live, and we'll get started.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lyndon Wilson, and I live at 404 Dominion Court in the Cheswick Farms subdivision. First of all, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight and to voice my opposition to the Anthem Park development at 1126 Liberty Pike. Many of us at Cheswick Farms, Andover, and even the Liberty Hills subdivision across the street have been voicing our concern about this proposed development and its various incarnations over the time period. We heard that it started out as about a couple of dozen units and a condo type of multiple buildings, and it was initially presented to us in a community meeting as 14 single-family units over 4 buildings. And fortunately, that raised enough opposition that it was defeated, and now it's been reworked to the plan that you see tonight, which is 5 2,000-square-foot homes on essentially about a 3/4 of an acre lot as far as what they can build on. But through all of that, our concerns have remained the same and unchanged, namely that it will negatively impact our property values, especially because of, in our opinion, the unreasonable price per square foot estimate that are being made, the traffic congestion issues, pedestrian safety issues, just the parking issues, and just the natural aesthetic that come with that particular property and the waterway. So there are others that are speaking about some of those things in greater detail. I wanted to speak tonight because I'm one of, if not the most directly affected, because my property at 404 Dominion Court is right directly across the waterway or the pond. And so I'll be directly looking into the back of these 5 homes and all that comes with looking in the back of the area. Trash bins, AC units, fences, whatever's being built back there. And and it's going to really change the view of my home and the beauty, which was one of the main reasons why I bought the home 3 years ago, was for the waterway, the pond, the fountain, and the whole natural beauty of that area. And I've kept that pond, by the way, myself, without the help of the property owner that owns part of that property, or even Andover for that matter. So when it was covered with moss or weeds, I dredged it. When it fountain needed repair, I repaired the fountain. When fish needed to be replaced, I restocked it. And so I've really kept it in perfect condition.
Can you wrap your comments up, sir, please?
I'm sorry?
Can you go ahead and wrap your comments up,
Okay,
please?
sure. So I bought the home believing the property across from me wouldn't change. It was a home on a lot in a subdivision, and now not only I have to have the property view changed, but have to contend with 15 to 20 people and the movement and all of the noise and the stuff that goes with that. So just to wrap up, to me this is an unacceptable proposal, and it's just too many houses and too much noise and too many people on too small of an area. And therefore, I ask that you vote no against it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Scott Whippleberg. I'm the president of the Cheswick Farm East Homeowner Association. So while he's here for his home, I also represent the other of the 101 homes in that subdivision that are also opposed to this because of the change of aesthetic it gives to this part of Franklin, this nice, beautiful, open area. We have areas that are congested and busy in those specific areas. We're going to now take a very congested home structure and put it right on the front of the street. Before you get to this nice, we have an open lake on one side, you have the open homes on the other side. And with the presentation from the developer, his plans for this property, with the price points he quoted 2 different price points. At the lowest point he quoted, only 6% of the homes in Andover are at or above that lowest point. And only 14% of the properties have a plot size the same size or smaller. So you have the smallest 14% of properties with the highest 6% of value, which means our fear is that these homes aren't going to sell for what they're worth. They're going to turn to rental properties. Andover already has reported problems with rental properties there. So I'm looking at representing the property values for the homes, the community. We've already been complaining from Andover about people walking through their subdivision. This is going to add more foot traffic heading through their subdivision. The fact that this sits right in front of Cheswick, this changes the face of Cheswick. It doesn't change the face of Andover. It's part of their property by the designation of the PUD. But we fear that it greatly affects the whole city area there. People in Liberty are bothered by this. People in Andover actually didn't know this was happening and they were bothered by it and didn't want it to happen. So I think there's a lot more, I think it's been trying to be done with a little less publicity, but I think by and large, the community is adversely affected by this. Many homeowners are bothered by their property values, and I had multiple emails come to me asking to represent our community as a proxy, asking for this to be considered 2 or 3 homes we can understand and we think that would bring comparable value and aesthetic. 5 homes is too much for this area here, and it really changes the landscape of this nice open part of Franklin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Troy Wilhelm. I also live in Cheswick Farm East, and I'm also on the board of Cheswick Farm. Just wanted to point out a few others, and I do have a document I'd like to share with you guys, and I can give it to you. So just to build on the items that were previously presented, and again, if you look at the overall map and plan of Cheswick Farm East as well as Andover, you can see that in reality it actually completely sits in front of Cheswick Farm. It's really to the left side of Andover, and I think when you look at that, it's really the face of our community. And I think as you vote, I think you should also weight the fact that we are opposed from a community to put 5 houses in there as much as you weight that it's attached to Andover. Some of the other things, if you look right beside the actual property, Franklin has actually started a project for a riparian zone. It's a restoration of a creek, a natural creek that occurs. It's actually, and you can see by the plot of the lands where that creek is, and I have a nice picture here that you can reference as well. But we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to restore a creek, but then we're going to literally squeeze 5 houses into a plot right beside it. And again, I imagine the due diligence was done from a drain off and runoff perspective. But again, we're trying to beautify this area, and now we're actually putting more houses and putting it right at open to the street. The other piece is, if you look across the street, there's a huge pond. If you look down, really, the whole stretch of Liberty where this is located, it's actually probably one of the most pretty stretches of Liberty or of Franklin that you'll find. So I encourage you guys to, drive down in this area. And as you see that between the riparian zone, the pond, you can really see that this doesn't fit Franklin. And from a planning standpoint, I hope you guys take that under, heavy consideration. I do agree with Scott. I think, 2 houses, 3 at the absolute most, is more acceptable to our community. But putting 5 houses in there, it just doesn't work. And I hope that you guys heavily consider that. The other piece is, as you look down the street of Liberty, you will also see there's other single-family homes, and potentially voting a yes for this could open up the opportunity to do the same thing the rest of the way down Liberty. So there's other houses with acreage of 0.3 acres or 0.4 acres, and my hope is that if you would vote yes on this, that that would potentially turn into more houses down Liberty because, again, because of the location, and you don't want to set a precedence that that can be done. So I would also say, look at those other houses. And my last point is really looking at the actual size of the properties. It's in front of Cheswick. Every property in front of Cheswick, or every property that touches this, is right around that 0.3 acres. These lots are going to be around 0.1 acres approximately. So it really just doesn't fit for the overall feel, being touching and combined with Cheswick. And with that, the points are summarized here. And here are just some pictures for consideration so you guys can see how beautiful this space is. And we really don't want to detract from it.
Excuse me, what's your name?
Troy Wilhelm.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Troy. All right, anyone else? All right, Sina, is there someone representing the applicant?
Good evening. My name is Greg Gamble, representing the applicant for Andover PUD. And I have one or two things that I'd like to comment on. First of all, we've received staff comments, and we're in full agreement with the comments that have been provided by staff, and appreciate staff working with us on this submittal. It was brought to my attention that there were multiple places where we have quoted various square footages of the homes. And just want to go on the record tonight and state the average square foot of the homes for this property are 2,200 square feet. They're going to range in size from 1,800 to 2,400. In the planning documents that were provided to Planning Commission, it stated they were 2,400 to 2,800. This will be revised with the PUD submittal, the post-PUD submittal. Looking at current market values within the area for new homes, we're anticipating $165 per square foot sales price, and which would give us an average of around $363,000 per home. And Chairman, this is not new information. It's an aerial view of kind of the overall neighborhood for context. Would you mind if I pass this down, and a couple of things on here I'd like to reference? In this aerial view that you're looking at, you're seeing with the Liberty Pike corridor. On this corridor, we have several existing subdivisions, Andover, Cheswick Farms, to the north of Liberty Pike. This proposed development is on 1.57 acres. This is an infill along Liberty Pike. In this aerial, you're looking at 21 cul-de-sacs. The majority of these have 5 homes per cul-de-sac. If you look south of Liberty Pike, we have 1 or 2 cul-de-sacs here that have 9 homes on a cul-de-sac or 8 homes on a cul-de-sac. We're not able to do a cul-de-sac off Liberty Pike because of the stacking distance for the automobiles. We have what's called a bird's eye or an eyebrow. It's a one-way road. It allows you to circulate the site, provide adequate circulation for fire, emergency vehicles, and allow the automobiles to smoothly enter and exit off of Liberty. We've had some comments that these lot sizes are smaller. The home separations, though, are equal or equivalent to those of the neighbors, those of Andover. We have 68% open space on this plan. That is our biofiltration for our stormwater, our infiltration areas for stormwater. We have a 60-foot buffer off of the creek that's in the back. and no disturbance and no change to the lake area or to those existing trees within that 60-foot buffer. That's a no-touch zone. If you look to the north on this aerial, you'll see Fletcher Court and Calgary Court. Just looking at those, an example where Andover backs up to Cheswick Farms, we have a distance from back of house to back of house of about 75 feet. The homes that we're proposing from back of house to the closest homes at Cheswick Farms are 160 feet. So just over twice the distance of those existing homes that are currently between Andover and Cheswick. We also have existing tree lines that are not going to be removed. We have existing vegetation that is not going to be removed, with the exception of exotic invasive plant material. Exotic invasives that have established themselves along this corridor, according to the city's policy, need to be taken out. That's privet, there's some bush honeysuckle, and those are requirements of the riparian restoration that was mentioned earlier. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding this submittal.
All right, thank you. All right, Commission, is there a motion before we get started discussing?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody?
You can go ahead.
Andy?
Okay, just some specifics. As was stated, these lots are a great deal smaller. We were saying 1/10 of an acre. I think there's one of them, there's some that are definitely well below that. Specifically on page 4, this is referenced in the conditions, but on that lot that's designated number 110, there doesn't appear to be enough room for a parking, let's see how to say it. Not necessarily that there might, there's one car parked there, but then I understand that the property, on the property, the house has to be a certain distance away from the sidewalk, as well as a certain distance back from the front facade of the house.
I'm happy to comment on that.
Yes, please do.
Each home has a 2-car garage, and we're counting one of the spaces within the garage toward the requirements of each one of the houses. Each house has one, minimum of one, car parked in the driveway. On lot 110, where we're showing that required parking space in the driveway, that distance is 22 feet. We recognize that we need additional parking for guests and events. We have 3 additional on-street parking spaces that are included as bump outs to make sure that all the emergency access or fire lanes during those times are unimpeded.
Well, if I read the comment correctly, that the garage needs to be 22 feet back from the sidewalk. The garage itself needs to be 22 feet back from the sidewalk.
All right, any other comments?
I mean, that is correct, right?
Yes.
And this is not fulfilling that. This is not 22 feet back from the sidewalk. The proposed garage there is not. It's not so, it is partly because of you want to have enough room for parking, but I think the requirement is that the garage must not only be 10 feet back from the facade, but must be 22 feet from the sidewalk.
It's very unusual in development plans that you show footprints, that you show the driveways.
Well,
And that was a request by staff. We're trying to provide as much information as we possibly can.
And
As we prepare the site plan and we move to the next level, there is room for refinement with those distances.
that's correct, and that is one of the things we've been concerned about and why we put this comment in there, so that at site plan, we wanted to go ahead and note that this will be a problem most likely, and that we will be on the lookout for it. And if the parking standard cannot be met with the development of that lot, then that lot will not be able to be created.
We recognize that the homes on these lots will be custom. I mean, each house has to be designed. We haven't gone through that effort yet to design these homes because the plan's not approved. These requirements and stipulations that are requirements of the City of Franklin zoning ordinance, they have to be met. Two-car garage needs to be 22 foot back from the edge of sidewalk. It'll be 22 foot back from the edge of sidewalk.
Well, you know, just looking at this, it doesn't, I mean, isn't this all the way back? Isn't the garage that's proposed here all the way back to the buffer? You see what I mean? I don't think there's much leeway there for you to move the garage back any further.
We do have some flexibility in the final alignment of the bird's eye that may allow us to shift over 2-3 feet in order to make sure that we're accommodating exactly what we need to do. But we really need to focus on what is the floor plan of that house, where's it going to sit on this lot, how's it sit, and it all needs to be designed in concert together. Absolutely.
All right, Marcia, did you have some comments?
Yes, I was just going to
Well, I
ask.
have one more too.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Okay, just real quick, Mr. Wilhelm had brought up about the creek restoration that's going on. Just wanted to be sure, and I'm sure you guys have, but there's a 60-foot buffer between this and the creek. The site prep, all of that, no, you don't foresee any problems with the creek or any damage or anything? Okay, just wanted to be sure no effect.
Our engineers have reviewed it during the review process, and they have seemed to think it will work. It is a no-touch buffer. They have to
Right.
stay fully out of it.
Right.
So they
Okay.
didn't foresee any problems at this point. More details will be provided at site
Site
plan
plan,
stage,
okay.
and they will be sure
It'll
to
be
look at it
addressed.
at that point.
Okay.
I'd like to add, too, that a 4-foot chain link fence is required to be installed as a part of the protection buffer during construction, so that no trucks, vehicles, or people enter that area.
Right.
All right. Ms. Peterson, you had another comment?
In looking at this, still, there was also a comment about the sanitary sewer easement there. It's going to be under the pavement. It appears, I mean, I don't, it looks as if between 109 and 108, the sewer easement is going to go down through the parking, paved parking there.
Yeah, what was the comment? Is this a staff comment you're talking about?
I think it was too.
You're allowed to park on top of easements typically. I don't know if that's,
Right, usually just the building can't be placed
Trying to
over
make
the
sure the building
easement,
stays
out of
but
that easement.
Pavement can be placed over it.
But I don't know whether it was on this item or another item, they were saying that if you have to repair the line, then that means that you have to tear the parking up?
Yes, that's true.
yeah, that's
There are ways
always,
to repair it without digging it up.
The whole thing up?
Most likely, that's more of a site plan level thing that we would look at as well. But most likely, there would be some type of note placed on the final plat that, yeah, it basically said that if any of that area were disturbed, that it would be at the homeowner's expense to replace that asphalt.
Well, the one reason that I'm bringing these things up is because, you know, we're saying that the number of houses on this particular area is not as dense as some other places might seem. But in reality, whenever you look at the water back here, you look at the buffer that's required to be from that, there's not much leeway here. These are very small lots. I suspect, are they the smallest ones that are in Andover? I don't think there are any that are smaller than that. It looks, from what I could see, and as I say, there's not much place to make movement, to move things around. So, you know, this is obviously better than the original plans we looked at, but still, it just looks like it's too much trying to be done in here in a very small area, and also one whose streetscape, I mean, you know, the street view, once you get past the drugstore and everything, does not look like this. It has a few houses that front on Liberty, but almost all of them back up to Liberty.
Well, I know staff has several times noted that there's potential that one or more of these lots would not be buildable and doable as they go forward, so I think that the tightness of that's been emphasized from staff side.
Yes.
So, and I would tend to agree. I think there's a higher level of scrutiny on what's built here because of that visibility. All right, any other comments?
By the way, I will not be supporting it for the reasons that I just stated.
Okay. All right, if there's no other comments, then we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Okay. Ms. Peterson, Ms. Gregory, vote no. All others vote yes, and the motion passes. Okay, item number 24, Resolution 2013-69, to be entitled a resolution approving a development plan revision for the Cool Springs Galleria PUD subdivision located at 1800 Galleria Boulevard. Staff?
Mr. Chairman, this is a revision to the existing approved PUD for the Cool Springs Galleria. The proposed plan is for additions totaling 73,700 square feet to the existing Galleria site. Staff recommends a favorable recommendation to BOMA.
Okay. All right, is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak to this item that are not part of the application? All right, is there someone representing the applicant that wants to speak on this?
Mr. Chairman, Charlie Lowe with Reagan Smith Associates. Additionally, with me tonight, Mr. David Meadows. He is with CBL. He is the Cool Springs Galleria manager. And also Mr. Ray Douglas. He is the architect, MSTSD. Our position is we are in agreement with all staff comments. Hope we can answer any questions, but ask for your favorable recommendation.
Okay, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, is there a motion? Oh.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and we'll let Jimmy come back to the,
Forgot about it.
you fall asleep back there?
I'm sorry.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 29, that was initially deferred and now it's on non-consent. Vanderbilt Health McEwen site plan, a 238,547 square foot building on 22.04 acres located at the southwest corner of East McEwen Drive in Carruthers. Okay. All right, Ms. Gregory will be recusing herself. All right, staff?
Staff originally recommended deferral of the site plan due to an incomplete traffic study that didn't account for potential development on the parcel at the southeast corner of McEwen and Carruthers. Staff has since met with the applicant to discuss the impacts of that revised traffic impact study, and we have come to the conclusion that there may be minimal, or very limited impacts to the site layout based on those changes to the updated traffic study. Therefore, staff has changed their recommendation to approval with conditions, but we have added a recommended project consideration that states that any intersection impacts from the revised traffic impact study will require post-PC approval at a minimum and possibly Planning Commission approval of the revised site plans. Upon completion of the traffic impact study and required roadway designs, DRT will determine if any impacts to the site warrant reapproval by Planning Commission or if the impacts are deemed minimal and approvable through the post-PC review process. That kind of gives us the discretion that if there are impacts that are worthy of further review by Planning Commission, it could be before you again. And if there are just minimal impacts, it can continue through the normal review process. In addition, there are some additional engineering conditions of approval, as well as some sureties that have been placed on the project since the original staff report was released. So you have received a fully updated revised list of all the conditions of approval that staff has recommended, and staff now recommends approval of the site plan with those conditions.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone in the audience, other than the applicant, that wants to speak to this item? All right, I see none. Is there someone representing the applicant?
I'm Cyril Stewart. I'm with Vanderbilt Medical, and I have Jeff Hooper and Anna Maddox with Barge Cawthon, the engineers on the site. We have met with the staff, appreciate their considerations. We are in full agreement with all the recommendations and conditions, and would appreciate your favorable approval tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion, and remember that as you make your motion to reference the new comments, new considerations from staff.
Move for approval with the project considerations as noted.
Second.
Okay, in the updated report.
In the updated report, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Could you actually specify the updated project considerations and conditions of approval?
All right, the updated project considerations and approval, conditions for approval.
Okay, and there's a second. Mr. Harrison seconded. Proper motion and second. Any discussion? All right.
But have the parking lots on both East McEwen and Carruthers, are they set back enough to account for any widening that may occur on both of those roads?
Okay, all right. Any other comments? Ms.
Yes,
Pierce?
and then since this is a site plan, how far away are the parking lots from the building? You know, some of them seem far away to me, and I just wondered what's the plan for, will there be a little
They're trying to promote
trolley or
good health.
something?
Good health walking.
Exercise.
I'll be glad to address that. At Vanderbilt, we have a lot of experience with parking lots in remote locations, but what we've done is we've put all the patient parking up close to the doors. The employee parking is further away, and we do provide handicap spaces for people with disabilities. We also, if there's the need that arises, we will provide an on-site shuttle bus primarily for the staff, but if they're patients, we do that as well. So.
I assumed that was probably what was going to happen, but as I say, what I think is going to be employee parking is pretty far away.
Well, and I will say, the one other thing, this site has a unique feature in that there's a wet weather conveyance that goes through the site. And we decided that instead of, trying to obliterate that and really concentrate all that in there, we wanted to create beautiful walking spaces. So we actually have alleys of trees, and we found at Vanderbilt on the campus that people don't mind walking if it's a beautiful space to walk through. If it's something of a harsh environment, then it's horrible to walk. So we think that with the landscaping, which is above average landscaping we have here, that people will enjoy the walk more than they would otherwise.
Speaking of wetland, since you're talking about that, I noticed there was a note on here saying wetland can be removed per TDAC.
Yes, we worked with TDAC on that, and we have gone ahead and bought an offset for that wetland credit, and so we now have a protected wetland place, and we have a certificate of proof of that.
Okay.
All right, any other comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.